Okay, welcome to the Solstice Shorts Festival 2018, which is organised by Arachne Press. This year, the call-out was for poems and short stories under 1,000 words on the topic of noon. Hopefully, you're going to enjoy the wonderful pieces that we've selected to read here. So we are at the old fire station in Carlisle. We have two people who will be reading their own work. I'll introduce them later. But also we have Alex Morrison, Esther Ridgway, Becca Roberts and Owain who will be reading the work of artists that weren't able to be here today. We have Philip Hewson, who is hiding behind the camera and is hopefully live streaming us to Tollivar Productions. I'm going to kick off straight away with my piece. It's a very short fiction piece called Mother and Child. Noontime, the top of the pendulum, a moment of suspension between inspiration, exhalation, rise and fall, a moment of uncertainty. She waits, unsure which path to take. Stillness. She hears voices on the wind, laughing, and she looks back. In the distance, a figure, no, two, a woman, a child following. She watches as the child catches up with the woman and disappears inside her. The woman approaches, her belly is swollen. Why are you waiting? I don't know which path to take. We can walk together. The child climbs out of the woman and runs ahead, sure of the way. Thank you.
Noon Child Unknown by Diana Powell. There was something about not going out in the midday sun. Scraps of word from old rhyme, or was it a song? Drifted deep in her mind, calling Lena, Lena, but she couldn't catch them or put them back together. Still, it made sense, didn't it? It was the hottest part of the day, the sun highest in the sky, too warm for children to play tag through the stones, too breathless for the gathering of wildflowers at the edge of the circle, too hot for anything, anyone. Yes, the old wives whispered tales, sitting by their hearths, leaning close, her mother told her. Saying things to stop us doing what we shouldn't, turning the hermit in the hut on the banks of the river into a troll who lurked beneath an uncertain bridge. Magicking the cave up on the mountain, too high for climbing, into the lair of the dragon, a fire-breathing monster. We believed it all, then, until older. We knew none of it true. For children intent on staying outside, when white shafts from the sky bore down into small, thin skulls with red heat addled their weak blood and minds, there was a witch who appeared and took them away, a white lady. There's always a white lady, or a wizened hag. There was always a wizened hag, or sometimes a young maiden, roaming the field bounds, took them away, cut off their heads, or left them mad if they didn't stay indoors. But it was just a tale. And she didn't have a child, did she? It wasn't summer now. The earth had exactly halfway round. A semicircle, a twist of a giant's hand, or a god's, she supposed. Summer solstice, winter solstice, high sun, low sun, hot, cold, a turnabout, and opposite to that day, when the wise men told her, no, it wasn't exact at all. They spoke of solar noons and altitudes and lines drawn on the earth, the angle of the sun. No giants or gods, just science. They knew more than her. Others always knew more than her. Since yesterday, they said, our 24 hours has gained 36 seconds, 23 more than in the summer. Look at your shadow, they told her. See how much longer it is, the longest of any time in the year. Wait, now. Now is the first of the bells. 1. Silencing the chatter with their noise, clamouring the thoughts in their heads, demanding that now turned into then. 2, 3, until 12 lingered in the air, holding their breath tight, stopping their limbs. That's when the lady appeared, on the last strike. Stroke of the bell, struck by the sun, struck of the devil woman, the dust clouds with the first sign, luring in the distance, whirling closer, entering their gapped mouths, cloying their lungs. Then they saw it, the figure dancing through them, saw the sky in their hands, flailing from side to side. The men shouted, waving, calling. The mothers took their children's hands and ran. Only she stayed where she was, in the centre of the circle, arms raised to the midday sun. There was no need for her to run, was there? Now she wishes she listened to the men, the old wives, anyone. Then just as she listens to them now, 1, 2, 22, 23, holly berry, mistletoe, holly berry, mistletoe. Counting out the words, holding them in her hand, 23 blinks of an eye, just enough, perhaps. Enough for a head start, perhaps, away from the demon, or enough to pause for a while, along the way to get her breath back, to give her the strength to go on again. And if she had this, what she sees is in front of her, if she had seen this figure stretching away from her, so tall and thin, with such long legs, how much faster her gait would have been. A vault over scattered stones, a jump over fallen trees through the nearby wood. Enough to leave the new witch behind. Any of these might have made a difference. Any of them could have saved the child unknown she carried deep inside. There was no witches for the winter solstice. As far as she knows, it made no difference anyway. There is no heat, so there is no falling to the floor, no pain, no bleeding. There is no new child to steal. There will never be another, they tell her. Gone with the midday witch last summer, Lady Noon. All there is the feeble sun, low in the sky, and long, such a long cast in front of her.
I'd like to introduce now Susan Cartwright-Smith, who is a Carlisle-based writer. She will be reading her poem, which is Far at Midday. Thank you.
First of all, I'm going to read a poem called Noon Sun by Alison Locke. This is for George. The opal eyes of dawn had long since opened when I first saw you. As clocks ticked on, they digitized your entry. The exit from my body marked me as calendar. From that time on, our counting days began with breaks at midnight and beyond. You are my noon sun, the age I was when I had you at Pluto's rising moon. So we are balanced on the scales of time, Noon Boy and I, astride the line of the meridian, a palindrome where shadows fade, double O's no longer link, where the sun becomes a moonbow in the winter sky, laid horizontal to the earth. But in good time, our hemispheres will separate, and then we'll be the noon, the dusk, the night, the dawn. and this is the peace fire at midday. We have built our solstice bonfire, stabbing sturdy sticks into the pliant pile to beckon back our god, with goddess waiting patiently. Is she mother now or crone? Does she lean upon an arm or link it rapturously? This sun has weak fingers in the midpoint of the day, and the shadows cast are short. We test for hedgehogs lying dormant, smell the autumn smell where once there would be snow. The tang of blood, wet metal, leaf mould, hot coins, rubber boots. Gone are days when blood ran on this ground. Gone the days when my blood ran. The ripening sun like a swelling belly, secrets hidden in plain sight. Dormancy resurfacing. The wheel once stopped in motion creaks as all trees breathe. And I shield my eyes against the sun. My sun moves from my shadow. He is satisfied, the fire is free of hibernation, and we bird nest up the tinder, light the beacon, pass the mead around this midpoint. We are celebrating, and I dance like fire, no freedom as the year, the day, myself teeter on the wave, crest the dying of this day. This is the dead time of the year, and I am alive. My old self dead. The next life opens up, I burn away.
An Autumn Noon by Ian Ross. In the half-done day before afternoon's cool, a pause, as the sun finds its balance between extremes. Darkness seems distant, as sunlight gathered in a gaze drawn upward recalls the long summer song singing in the blaze of its midday. But waits, in the shrunken shadows of the leaf-bare trees that live remembering the deep dark of winter to come. And this is Unleashed by Paul Foy. Flames on windscreens, deluge of light unleashed, tributaries of sunshine splash and snap against side streets. Running down stone-walled stairways to deep-rooted shadows, yappy dogs at an old hound. A solitary shaft slaps windows, challenging traffic, racing quick glances. A cocktail is shaken in tinted trails. Here, a glint of a razor as the net is shorn in a Turkish barber shop. In a flower shop, petals reach out to clear their throats. A floor above, hunched shoulders in a betting shop. A girl sings through the mercury chimes, her open apartment window, a momentary mirror reflecting light, casting shadows in a cave. All sounds but this harmony are silenced. I am owned by this commonality. The clash of cloud, sun, metallic blue sky, owned by the race through the crowd, the steady plod of feet and pushchair wheels on pavement slabs. A boy rattles a collection tin. Mistress of finesse, of fickleness, take notice. Here's our sadness and our happiness. Autumn leaves in a puddle when the rain has stopped. The bells chime and the sun pushed through. Strange, there are no trees here.
I'd like to welcome Becca Peters, who is based in the northeast, and she's here to read her story Up on the Roof.
The alarm rings at 2:45, work starts at noon. At noon, the winds are at their strongest and the sun at its highest, although that would be hard to tell. Up on the roof, the cloud is so thick you can almost eat it. It has been a year and a half since I have seen blue sky. It is an uncomfortable feeling, being shrouded in clouds. The sky seems heavier than the ground. Gravity seems confused too, and the ground trembles every other day or so. The mantle of the earth is trying its damnedest to shake us off and into the clouds. I don't blame it. I roll out of my cot. Standing too quickly, I bang my head. The narrow rooms where we now live are as oppressive as the clouds. The plaster smells constantly of damp. I've learned it's best to put my uniform on last thing, so as to keep the damp smell at bay. I have time to spare. I close my eyes against the grey hump of the single energy-saving bulb. It does funny things to my vision. I often see shadows when trying to sleep, and I can almost make out words scrawled beneath the ever-damp paints above my cot. Sometimes I consider adding to the historic document, but I don't know where the written pens. Also, I have more or less forgotten how to write, and what would I say? Before everything went wrong, time to spare had been a luxury. 5 minutes meant a status update, a few picture flicks to spy on friends or past lovers, a chat with a parent, a quickly scribbled birthday card. Now there are no phones, no one I know, no parents, no birthdays. I decide to be early. Maybe whoever cares about these things will notice. Maybe I'll be promoted. To what, I'm not sure. The hierarchy is still unclear to me, but perhaps that is because it needs to be. 5-2. My cubicle door shuts slowly behind me. I start to climb the 12 flights to the roof. I make myself recount what was before, and it does get easier the more I relive the moment. A moment for every flight of stair. 1. Snatches of blue sky in a summer heat wave, some years ago. Snatches of headlines predicting environmental doom. 2. Our dogs panting heavily, overheating. September, October, no need for coats when we walk them in November. 3. Dogs starving now, bones sticking out everywhere. No reason, said the vet. Perhaps something in their food? Something in the air? I wipe some sweat from my cheek, and the gun clinks against my left leg. Where is that vet now? 4. Unnatural, midday darkness. Silent birds. Silent people hurrying in the streets. The supermarket's empty of the milk that was already starting to taste sour. Here, there isn't any food as such, just nutrient mulch. It's a similar colour to the walls and the clouds. A pallid margin laps at everything here. It is not as tragic as you might think, not having windows. There is nothing outside to see. 5. Sleeping with the bedroom windows open on Christmas Eve, sheets sticking to us in the heat. I lick some sweat from my top lip and keep a steady pace, climbing up and up. 6. New Year's Day. The dead birds all over the ground. The moans as the smell began to rise. I'm almost at the roof now, almost ready to keep watch. 7. Thick air choking us as we move to the bunker. Or were we? People in masks, silent, unforgivingly uninformative, holding guns. Guns like the one I hold now. 8. The sadness of the bunker. Beds everywhere, bodies supine, eyes glued to the grey ceiling. 9. The protection of the bunker. The comforting whir of the air conditioning. A whine of irony at its continued use, even at the planet's end. 2 minutes to go, and I'm at the door to the roof. I lean against it for just a moment. It is difficult for me to catch my breath these days. 10. The questions that have haunted the waking minutes. Where are the dogs now? Were they alive? Was the house on fire? Looted? Gone? Hushed conversations between beds, and the dawning realisation that everything we once knew had been twisted. All had been heated and cooled, and was now unrecognisable. 11. Your hand, when it stopped squeezing. 12, stepping out alone when they opened the bunker. The new, grey sky. I held myself against the door and fall out onto the roof. High railings loom over me. Feeling dizzy, I crouch for a moment, letting this depleted world spin around me. I wipe my cheek again and shoulder my gun. I stand, I look up, hoping to see a flying shape amongst the clouds. I gasp. It is noon. The sky is blue.
Mad Dogs and Englishmen by Layla Sumpton. Tristan chases his tail. Eustacia snarls at water. No one has seen Agamemnon, and Hyacinth is on heat. We're all rather busy, for this is our time when we dare to pinken, when we tread your sacred climes, assess your dozing towns, and groom flagging Maharajas till they canter to bugle and drum. When you wake, our plan will be done. Your feet will carry ours to lands ripe for dreaming, leaving us more time for croquet, poetry, and meandering letters home. You'll find you have actually agreed to till, plant, and ship all you have back to our grainy parlours, anxiously awaiting tea. We muddle gin and straighten the map of a plot you've never realised. We'll use this midday sun to rename mountains, reappoint rivers, and decide the exact ratio of how many weavers need broken thumbs for our mills back home to bloom. We plan at the peak of the sun, whilst ayahs fan our brows and the cook sweats into a large Victoria sponge before carving up a chicken for all our errant hands. Sun Beats over New Orleans by Natalie Gasper. I took a stroll past Jackson Square today, just as the out-of-tune bell began to mark the luncheon hour. The first chime rang out as two young lovers stole a kiss beneath the low-hanging branches of a vibrant oak tree. 3 marked the horse-drawn carriages as they clipped, clopped, and rolled down Decatur Street. 4 tourists ambled by with their fresh beignets as the 5th bell sounded. With the 6th chime came a soft breeze off the Mississippi River, the only relief from this 7-day streak of midday July heat. 8 artists stationed by the wrought iron fence made their final marks on bright cityscapes as the bell sang out, striking its 9th peal. A flutter of wings drew my eyes to the sky as 10 mourning doves made their daily rounds around Andrew Jackson. His hat forever tipped to everyone who passes, his mount reared up to greet the day. At the 11th bell, the sun, peeking out from billowy white clouds, cast shadows scarcely large enough for field mice. High noon came at last, with a final echoing clang, expanding out across the square.
On Kings and Falling by Robert Greenberg. So powerful was the king that his death filled the sky. At high noon, the black orb stood still. It made us think fast and clear and drink. So jolly was our king that he hadn't disappeared at all. Not him. We all disappeared instead. We exterminated ourselves thoroughly. By mid-afternoon, we were falling infinitely into nothingness, still clutching post-funeral drinks, sardines, and choking on small talk. Shot glasses were falling beside us, and we argued about the rate of acceleration and the horrible wrong that had been done to the laws of physics and human decency. As we fell, we grabbed the walls, leaving greasy marks. The country, bits of the evening news. Everything slid down into yogurt eating, cornflakes spilling, couch sitting, TV gazing. Into the depths of the couch we flew. And sometimes we tried to go shopping for shoes, or just sit in a coffee shop, but it never quite worked. They didn't stock the right shoes, and there weren't any golden coins left. The kingdom was remortgaged. Besides, there was geography homework or a book report, and one needed a white shirt for tomorrow's assembly, and the iron went missing. The stuff on the news was confusing. When other people died, in an explosion, or in an abandoned fridge, or in a roof caved in, it suggested unclear comparisons with our own state. We blamed each other for wallowing in the confusingly tragic news. And there was static on the TV after the midnight newsreel. The static never carried messages from outer space, and never synced with the buzz of the fridge or the tiny snores and wheezes. In the early hours of the morning, our country became known as the country of infinite falling. And then, thump, we landed. Pale Margot as we were, newly emerged from grief, the discarded pupa of grief. We dripped. We lost all our watches. Crocodiles stomped beneath us. And a rumour started that we had to climb along the curved spine of the earth back to his deserted kingdom. We had grown as we fell, and now our lives awaited us. And another rumour was he hadn't died at all. He might have assumed the form of a giant ball of fire and was rolling cosily across the warming sky. Well, they might have made a mistake, and he was out there, out of the window, in a black Jaguar, with a bottle of champagne ever ready, a bouquet of flowers, and a whistle to rouse people in pyjamas and make them look out of the window. But that we were likely to find him if we used our pickaxes and rope ladders well enough to reach the top of the planet by morning. So we climbed into the new morning, and the new high noon, and the long, the unknown hours beyond.
Farewell, my father, by Anne Becca. The voice of my father reached me from the height of the saltwater spray, glancing the rocks with his simple accent, more distant now than in my childhood. I listened with jaded heart to his tune, swaying to the familiar melody. At my feet, a dog daisy reached from beneath a boulder, fairer than its sisters who dusted the soft sands. Twice I tasted a salty drop, and knowing it was not the wild Atlantic spray that stung my lips, I accepted the daisy, flourishing in the barren, faded life. A cormorant straddled the rushing water, feathers fluffed to the western wind, and I felt a surge of life within me that matched the bravery of the daisy. On the wooded hill behind me, the church bell toned with noontime call to prayer, and I released your thrashing spirit to the foaming winter water. And Moon Jellyfish by Vanessa Bowen. Half the day is gone. Our words evaporate into the warm silence of the midday sun. We listen to the bladder wrack crunch, step carefully over the beach jellyfish lulled by the warm currents. You want to paddle and have to steady yourself on my arm. It's easy to forget your age as our footsteps disappear into the wet sand. Your feet, half the size of mine now, but I almost felt bigger, even when I was small. I fill the silence with stories of beach days with my friends. The jellyfish we swam through, but only one of us was stung. Moon jellyfish glow at night. You don't ask why. My thirst to know won't end, but why should we be the same? You don't remember the jellyfish stories, or letting me go out on the bike with no brakes. But you remember the girl taken by the wave, and the mother who couldn't lock doors in case one day her little girl would come home.
Westerly's Sundial, Drummond Castle, Perthshire, 1653, by Jane Aldous. Drummond Castle was sacked by Oliver Cromwell in 1653. Picking Hanwell and thyme, she was out in the garden close to the sundial when she heard a kerfuffle up at the castle. All the explosions and fighting were over by noon. She knew this by the way sunlight fell across the hollows and downs of the Oxleys. She'd never noticed before how the carved hearts and triangles held such deep shadows, and that the dials resembled deadly swords. Soon she'd have to return to the kitchen, but for now she watched as noon darkened the sandstone and wondered what else was to come. Noon Talk by Graham Birchall. Noon talk is vulnerable, like December daylight. There's not enough of it. On the shortest of days, it shows me a slant of fine rain in the gap between my window and the wall of laurel opposite. There must be a word for such a condition, one more cuter than merely gloomy. In Senegal, where it is the same time, there will be no talk of precipitation of middays, compared with metals, except perhaps gold or copper, or of it getting dark soon. In the city of tears, where it is also the shortest day, who will speak of it, sat in the shade of a giant baobab tree? They'll have other things to laugh and cry about, to string in sentences full of sand and prenalities, opposites, and Germanite consonants. Noon is a Kandyan language of the Senegal, spoken in the Tears region.
Still No Name by Marika Joseph. Church clock strikes in the barren eve. He's got spikes to match those of the dry brush. He smokes. Straight below, the reckoning stretches ahead, dusty, earthy. It burns bright with the soot in his eyes. It strikes. Church clock strikes on the barren heath. He's counted every stitch on every mistake he's made, tender as ancestral quilt threads, stripped bare as bark, bit and raw as dry whiskey screams. Another patient. It strikes. Church clock strikes on barren leaves. He squints against the bald sun of high noon to hold the sight firm or it will crumble to the touch. When a stranger comes to town, night and day cannot agree on what favours to grant the time. It strikes, stutters, grinds. Church clock strikes, and still he is only halfway. He knows how these stories end, as they must. Old pulp tales, a past wrong put right, an enigma in bullet hole braille, judge, jury, and a first and final home in the ground, forgotten but for hungry jackals screaming in the drought. He won't return. But until the chimes suffocate, he will have beaten the sun to its highest point. He will have followed the lines in his hands, and then he will take a step. The creek rends country silence. A suggestion unspools. He is ready. By noontime, he will be. After Hours by Stuart Mackenzie. We roll out of the club at noon, the closest place to hell I'd ever been, but I still stayed anyway, now emerging to that lost part of the day we hoped we'd see, but it's brief. Sunday morning strollers are out, and I count down on my fingers the hours I have to get my head together before work the next day. I swear I'm still rushing as I struggle with euphoria, here to spread love all over the world, gonna kiss the sky, you've never been so high, before we realise we haven't quite made it over noon's threshold, and I get to plunder the day for all it's worth.
#Noon by Su Yin Yang. Noon flicked through her Instagram feed, her French manicured nails tapping on the screen. #sunrise, #sunset, #gratitude, #wonder of nature. It made her want to puke. Everybody wanted a selfie with sunrise or sunset, but what about her? What was wrong with Noon? Noon was the moment at which Sun was at the peak of her powers, the midway point in the day, the halfway line between one midnight and the next. But people had no appreciation for the classics these days. They were only interested in the big names. Where were her Insta followers? The curse of the middle child, she thought, always overlooked. Sunset was insufferable about her follower numbers. Her air of superiority wafted around like expensive perfume. She took every opportunity to pontificate to her younger sisters about building a fan base, her personal brand, search engine optimization. Noon always felt a bit panicky listening to this marketing speak. She didn't know what these phrases meant, much less how to action them. Sunrise, however, affected a glazed-over boredom during these impromptu lectures, and barely looked up from watching YouTube clips of ninja cats and hilarious dog fails. Her older sister's graphs and pie charts were only for suits, and as for Facebook followers, it was just embarrassing. Everybody knew it was just for old people. For Sunrise, social media was like breathing, and she didn't consider her oldest sister to be any real threat. After all, she had a 98% approval rating for doing little more than bending into sun salutations wearing tight lycra, making kale smoothies, or occasionally smashing an avocado onto sourdough. #wellness, #clean living. Her youth was bewildering to Noon. She even knew how to use the storyboard function on Instagram, for Christ's sake. Well, this winter solstice, she was going to upstage them both. This was her time. Her minion crouched at her feet, filing and buffing her hooves, trying to get down to the level of pink skin, well hidden under the layers of grey hide. It was expensive and time-consuming work, this sunny, natural look. Much harder than people thought. She couldn't just slap on some smoky eyeliner like Sunset and look all moody. No. She had to work hard for this sun-kissed look. Spray tan once a week, all over body scrubs to avoid patchiness, dry body brushing to keep the cellulite at bay. As for the contouring, that Kardashian butts one had a lot to answer for. And who knew there were that many shades on the tan to beige spectrum? She was sick of bloody taupe, nude, mushroom. She wanted colour. To go wild with a new Chanel eyeliner in aqua, paint her toenails in cherry pop, dye her hair acid pink. Did her sisters ever think of that? No, they did not. Spin dizzy on their fame and billion hashtag mentions. Well, this would show them. She smiled to herself in anticipation, the hum of her secret plan vibrating in her belly. She reached for the tray of samples on the chaise-longue beside her, filled with rhinestones and Swarovskis, running her fingers through their glorious technicolor. She felt strangely soothed by the sound, reminding her as it did of small stones on the shoreline being bathed by the sea. Like a rhinestone cowboy, she hummed, riding out on a horse in a star-spangled rodeo. It was certainly going to be spangled, that's for sure. The Newgrange crowd would hate it. The ones who drove out to some godforsaken place in rural Ireland and queued up in the dark and drizzle on winter solstice just to see sunrise flooding the chamber of a megalithic tomb, or something equally snoresome as that. It was her sister's party piece. She never paid it much attention, to be honest. Full of the Gore-Tex brigade, as she called them. The wholesomes, who earnestly filled their thermos flasks with fair trade coffee and packed enough ginger nut biscuits to share. They probably used words like blessed, humbling, and inspirational to describe it. Was there anything that made us want to shoot herself in the face faster than the Gore-Tex brigade? Well, she would show them inspirational, she sneered. They would be appalled by the level of bling she had in mind for this noon. She would blow the fucking roof off their tomb. Oh, Noon had plans, big plans. This noontime showdown would go down in history. Like a static solar fireworks show, she was going to light up the sky in a halo of jeweled tones. Ruby red, emerald green, sapphire blue. It would be like one of those child's kaleidoscopes where the tiniest twist of a wrist made colourful shapes burst into pattern after pattern. She would make sure that there was just enough time for people to get their selfies. Oh yes, they would get their bloody selfies. And there had better be a #Noon trending on Twitter after it, she thought. She felt dizzy with the anticipation of it all. Steady yourself, Noon, she thought. Don't get too excited. This had to be just right. Standing in front of her wardrobe, she took out her rhinestone-encrusted playsuit. It flashed and glinted in the light, a slithery sliver of colour amid a sea of neutrals. Showtime.
Arthur Seaton advises his students by Mandy MacDonald. No, none of that flat, transparent light. Your light needs to slant, scatter, explode in loose, fierce brushstrokes. White-hot blades fallen off the sun to crash land among your gum trees. Smash the vertical design. Think of those skeleton trunks as maenads. You know the myth, don't you? Bacchus and his dancers. Sinewy, silvery, improbably upright. The maddening Thyrsus wand, a shaken gesture of leaves high up. Thick flicks of grey-white paint edged with sun, praising the light, its cruelty. Whatever pigment you use, think of everything as white. If there is water in these pictures, put no blue in it. Make it a quicksilver snake. The grass between trees, a sheet of pale beaten gold. Out here, it is everlasting violet noon.
We're going to finish off our session here with Alex reading a last poem, but I just wanted to thank a few people. Just before I thank a few people, I'm not going to dwell on this, but I do want to just mark the fact that today is the 30th anniversary of the Lockerbie disaster, and for people that are not here, we in Carlisle are just down the road from Lockerbie. I can certainly remember that day and that evening really, really strongly. I had younger children then, and I also remember the scars on the landscape if you drove up from Lockerbie. I'm not going any further with that. I would like to thank Cherry Potts and Arachne Press for organising this event. I'd like to thank Stephen Dunn and Carlisle City Council for letting us use this space, which is very good of them. I'd like to thank Philip Hewitson and Tolibar Productions, who are behind the camera, or they, Royal Wing maybe, something like that. Thank you. I would like to thank all the contributors to our thing here. So all the writers, particularly Lily, who came to read, and Susan, who was here reading their own work. I'd like to thank people here who came and watched. I'd like to thank the people who may be watching our live streaming or will later look at it, and any authors that are looking at this later on. I hope you enjoy how we interpreted your work. I don't think I've got anybody else to thank. So we're going to finish with Alex reading our last poem. Thank you.
I am not beautiful at noon, like Eleanor Brooks. At noon, you think you have me where you want me. Hold me high on the tips of my own spears. I hang like a naked light bulb, burning my prisoner's blinded eye. Harangue and harry you, hot and angry. Maddened, I make you face the white spears of my ire, or flee into the shadows that dwindle to a dot and disappear. I am not beautiful at noon. But when the dark arrows of birds pierce the hedgerows at dusk along the lanes, and you untie me from the sky, I run down the sloping fields and launch myself out over the plain, beyond the reach of the children and their handfuls of wet grass. Glorious, I slip beneath your horizon.
Are you letting it fade, Phil? Almost. I am also thanking all our leaders, which I've got to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara.